Everything was perfectly good. There were no jails, no bad neighborhoods, no hospitals for crazy people, no people with broken bodies, no poor people, no wars. All diseases were gone. So was getting old. Death, except for accidents, was something people picked for themselves. The number of people in the United States stayed at 40 million people. One sunny morning in the Chicago Baby Hospital, a man named Edward K. Whaling, Jr. waited for his wife to have their baby. He was the only man waiting. Not many people were born each day anymore. Whaling was 56 years old, which was very young in a country where most people were 129 years old. X-rays had shown that his wife was going to have 3 babies at the same time. The children would be his first ones. Young Whaling was bent over in his chair with his head in his hands. He was so messy and wrinkled, so still and colorless that you could almost not see him. He fit in perfectly because the waiting room also looked messy and sad. Chairs and ashtrays had been moved away from the walls. The floor was covered with dirty cloths. The room was being painted. It was being painted to remember a man who had picked to die. A mean old man about 200 years old sat on a step ladder, painting a wall picture he did not like. Back when people looked older as they got older, he would have looked about 35 years old. Aging had changed him that much before the cure for aging was found. The wall picture he was working on showed a very neat garden. Men and women in white clothes, doctors and nurses, turned the dirt, planted baby plants, sprayed bugs, spread food for plants. Men and women in purple clothes pulled up weeds, cut down plants that were old and sick, raked leaves and carried trash to burning barrels. Never, 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 not even in old Holland or old Japan, had a garden been more neat or better cared for. Every plant had all the dirt, light, water, air, and food it could use. A hospital helper came down the hall, singing quietly a popular song. "If you don't like my kisses, honey, here's what I will do. I'll go see a girl in purple, kiss this sad world goodbye. If you don't want my loving, why should I take up all this space? I'll get off this old planet. Let some sweet baby have my place." The helper looked in at the wall picture and the painter. "Looks so real," he said. "I can almost think I'm standing in the middle of it." "What makes you think you're not in it?" said the painter. He gave a fake smile. "It's called the happy garden of life, you know." "That's nice of Dr. Hitz," said the helper. He was talking about one of the men in white, whose head was a picture of Dr. Benjamin Hitz, the hospital's main baby doctor. Hitz was a very handsome man. "Lots of faces still to fill in," said the helper. He meant that the faces of many of the people in the wall picture were empty. All empty faces were to be filled with pictures of important people, either on the hospital staff or from the Chicago office of the Federal Bureau of Termination. "Must be nice to be able to make pictures that look like something," said the helper. The painter's face became angry. "You think I'm proud of this boring thing? You think this is my idea of what life really looks like? What's your idea of what life looks like?" The painter pointed at a dirty cloth. "There's a good picture of it," he said. "Put that in a frame, and you'll have a picture that's much more honest than this one." "You're a sad old man, aren't you?" said the helper. "Is that against the law?" said the painter. Said, "If you don't like it here, old man." The helper finished the thought with the special telephone number that people who didn't want to live anymore were supposed to call. The 0 in the telephone number he said as 0. The number was 2BR02B. It was the telephone number of a place whose funny names included Automat, Birdland, Cannery, Catbox, Delouser, Easy Go, Goodbye Mother, Happy Hooligan, Kiss Me Quick, Lucky Pierre, Sheep Dip, Wearing Blender, Weep No More, and Why Worry, To Be or Not to Be, was the telephone number of the city gas killing rooms of the Federal Bureau of Termination. The painter made a rude hand sign at the helper. "When I decide it's time to go," he said, "it won't be at the Sheep Dip." "A do-it-yourself person, huh?" said the helper. "That's messy, old man. Why don't you think a little about the people who have to clean up after you?" The painter said a bad word to show he did not care about the problems of the people who would be left behind. "The world could use a lot more mess, if you ask me," he said. The helper laughed and walked away. Wheeling, the waiting father, said something quietly without lifting his head. and then he became quiet again. A tough, scary woman walked into the waiting room wearing tall shoes. Her shoes, leg coverings, raincoat, bag and cap were all purple, a purple the painter called the color of grapes on Judgment Day. The metal badge on her purple shoulder bag showed the picture of the Service Division of the Federal Bureau of Termination, a big bird sitting on a spinning door. The woman had a lot of hair on her face, a clear mustache, in fact. A strange thing about gas room workers was that no matter how pretty and womanly they were when they started, they all grew mustaches within 5 years or so. "Is this where I'm supposed to come?" she asked the painter. "A lot would depend on what you're here for," he said. "You aren't about to have a baby, are you?" "They told me I was supposed to stand still for some picture," she said. "My name's Leora Duncan." She waited. "And you dunk people," he said. "What?" she said. "Forget it," he said. "That sure is a beautiful picture," she said. "Looks just like heaven or something." "Or something," said the painter. He took a list of names from his shirt pocket. "Duncan, Duncan, Duncan," he said, reading the list. "Yes, here you are. You're going to be remembered forever. See any body without a face here you'd like me to put your head on? We've got a few good ones left." She looked at the wall picture. "Gee," she said, "they're all the same to me. I don't know anything about art." "A body's a body, right?" he said. "All right. As a master of art, I think this body here would be good." He pointed at the body without a face of a woman who was carrying dried plant stems to a trash burner. "Well," said Leora Duncan, "that's more the people who throw things away, isn't it?" "I mean, I'm in service. I don't throw things away." The painter clapped his hands in fake happiness. "You say you don't know anything about art, and then you show in the next moment that you know more about it than I do. Of course, the person carrying stems is wrong for someone who welcomes people, a cutter, a trimmer. That's more your type." He pointed to a figure in purple who was cutting a dead branch from an apple tree. "How about her?" he said. "Do you like her at all?" "Gosh," she said, and she turned red and became shy. That puts me right next to Dr. Hitz." "That bothers you," he said. "Good gravy, no," she said. It's just such an honor." "Ah, you look up to him, huh?" he said. "Who doesn't look up to him?" she said, staring with love at the picture of Hitz. It was the picture of a tan, white-haired, all-powerful god, 240 years old. "Who doesn't look up to him?" she said again. "He was the one who made the very first gas room in Chicago." "Nothing would make me happier," said the painter, "than to put you next to him forever. Cutting off a branch, that seems right to you?" "That is kind of like what I do," she said. She was quiet about what she did. What she did was make people comfortable while she killed them. And while Leora Duncan was standing still for her picture, into the waiting room jumped Dr. Hitz himself. He was 7 feet tall, and he was full of importance, success, and the happiness of living. "Well, Miss Duncan, he said, and he made a joke. "What are you doing here? This isn't where the people leave. This is where they come in." "We're going to be in the same picture together," she said shyly. "Good," said Dr. Hitz. "And say, isn't that some picture?" "I sure am honored to be in it with you," she said. "Let me tell you, I'm honored to be in it with you. Without women like you, this wonderful world we've got wouldn't be possible." He made a salute to her and walked toward the door that led to the baby rooms. "Guess what was just born?" he said. "I can't," she said. "3 babies at once," he said. "3 babies at once," she said. She was surprised about the legal problems of 3 babies at once. The law said that no newborn child could live unless the parents of the child could find someone who would pick to die. 3 babies, if they were all to live, needed 3 people to volunteer. "Do the parents have 3 volunteers?" said Leora Duncan. "Last I heard," said Dr. Hitz, "they had one and were trying to find 2 more. "I don't think they made it," she said. "Nobody made 3 meetings with us. Nothing but single people going through today unless somebody called in after I left." "What's the name?" "Whaling," said the waiting father, sitting up with red eyes and messy hair. "Edward K. Whaling, Jr. is the name of the happy father-to-be." He raised his right hand, looked at a spot on the wall, gave a rough, sad laugh. "Here," he said. "Oh, Mr. Whaling," said Dr. Hitz. "I didn't see you." The invisible man, said Wailing. They just called me that your 3 babies have been born, said Dr. Hitz. They're all fine, and so is the mother. I'm on my way in to see them now. Hooray, said Wailing with no feeling. You don't sound very happy, said Dr. Hitz. What man in my shoes wouldn't be happy, said Wailing. He moved his hands to show how simple and easy everything was. All I have to do is pick out which one of the 3 babies is going to live, then take my mother's father to the Happy Hooligan and come back here with a paper showing I did it. Dr. Hitz became rather serious and strict with Wailing and stood over him. You don't believe in population control, Mr. Wailing, he said. I think it's perfectly great, said Wailing. Would you like to go back to the good old days when the population of the Earth was 20 billion, about to become 40 billion, then 80 billion, then 160 billion? Do you know what a drupelet is, Mr. Wailing? Said Hitz. No, said Wailing, acting angry. A drupelet, Mr. Wailing, is one of the little bumps, one of the little soft seeds of a blackberry, said Dr. Hitz. Without population control, human beings would now be packed on the top of this old planet like drupelets on a blackberry. Think of it. Wailing kept staring at the spot on the wall. In the year 2000, said Dr. Hitz, before scientists stepped in and made the rules, there wasn't even enough drinking water to go around, and nothing to eat but seaweed, and still people said they had the right to have babies like rabbits, and their right, if possible, to live forever. I want those kids, said Wailing. I want all 3 of them. Of course you do, said Dr. Hitz. That's only natural. I don't want my grandfather to die either, said Wailing. Nobody's really happy about taking a close family member to the cat box, said Dr. Hitz with understanding. I wish people wouldn't call it that, said Leora Duncan. What? Said Dr. Hitz. I wish people wouldn't call it the cat box and things like that, she said. It gives people the wrong idea. You're totally right, said Dr. Hitz. Forgive me. He fixed what he said, gave the city gas rooms their official name, a name no one ever used in normal talk. I should have said Ethical Suicide Studios, he said. That sounds so much better, said Leora Duncan. This child of yours, whichever one you decide to keep, Mr. Wailing, said Dr. Hitz. He or she is going to live on a happy, big, clean, rich planet, thanks to population control. In a garden like in that wall picture there. He shook his head. 200 years ago, when I was a young man, it was a terrible place that nobody thought could last another 20 years. Now hundreds of years of peace and plenty stretch before us as far as the mind can travel. He smiled brightly. The smile went away when he saw that Wailing had just pulled out a gun. Wailing shot Dr. Hitz dead. There's room for 1, a great big one, he said, and then he shot Leora Duncan. It's only death, he said to her as she fell. There. Room for 2. And then he shot himself, making room for all 3 of his children. Nobody came running. Nobody, it seemed, had heard the gunshots. The painter sat on the top of his ladder, looking down and thinking on the sad scene. He thought about the sad puzzle of life, wanting to be born, and once born, wanting to have children, to multiply and to live as long as possible, to do all that on a very small planet that would have to last forever. All the answers that the painter could think of were dark, even darker surely than a cat box, a happy hooligan, an easy go. He thought of war. He thought of disease. He thought of hunger. He knew that he would never paint again. He let his paintbrush fall to the clods below. And then he decided he had had about enough of the happy garden of life too, and he came slowly down from the ladder. He took Wailing's gun, really planning to shoot himself. But he didn't have the courage, and then he saw the telephone booth in a corner of the room. He went to it, called the well-remembered number 2BR02B. Federal Bureau of Termination, said the warm voice of a woman worker. How soon could I get a meeting? He asked, speaking carefully. We could probably fit you in late this afternoon, sir, she said. It might even be earlier if we get someone who cancels. All right, said the painter. Fit me in, if you please. And he gave her his name, spelling it out. Thank you, sir, said the woman worker. Your city thanks you, your country thanks you, your planet thanks you, but the deepest thanks of all is from future children.